y'all, it's Jazz, and I have a natural full face tutorial for y'all. So let's just hop right into it. I already wiped down her face with the Neutrogena makeup wipe, but then I used my NYX brow pencil in the shade Expresso, and I just start outlining her brows, just filling them in. Remember, using a light hand, because if you want a darker brow, you go with a more heavier hand and do more shading. If you want just like a nice little fill in, you'll have just a lighter hand when you're filling your brows in. And remember to brush through them while you are filling them in. And I also try not to go over or the brows. Oh, sometimes I do, but if I do, the concealer cleans it right up, so no worries there. So anything I do to one side, obviously I'm going to do to the other. And I am just filling her brows in. That's why I always recommend for my clients to have their eyebrows already done, to have them arched, because it just comes out more clean and more sleek. When you have brow hairs everywhere, it's going to be trying to cover it up, and it just look all wild. They might look big. You don't want that. So I always recommend to get your brows done when you do them. It just comes out more cleaner and it comes out cute, in my opinion. That's just what I like. Call me Bruno. So then I take my e.l.f. concealer and my Morphe brush just to carve out her brows, and then I drag that to her eyelid. All the description, oh my goodness, all the stuff will be in the description box below. And the shades that I use, I usually go a couple shades lighter when it comes down to the concealer, because 9 times out of 10 they're not going to see it, but I still want it to be relatively close to her skin tone. It all comes together at the end, but this is just a technique that I use when doing the brows. I'm also going to have more of a in-depth tutorial on brows, so make sure y'all are looking out for that. But y'all just see me carving out the brows, and make sure your brush is flat. That really helps. Or you can sketch it. Like I said, I'm gonna go more in depth into the when I have an eyebrow video, because it's 2 ways that how I learned how to do it and how I do it now. So for my beginners, I'm gonna do that one technique, and then I'm gonna do the other technique for my girls that already know but they just want to perfect it. But I am just putting the concealer all over her lid. This is just a natural full face, so she's not going to get any eyeshadow. We're just going to pack that all over her eye and just make sure that it is flat and it is no creases or anything. We're going to do the same with the forehead, and I'm going to do that with the other eye. And we're going to make sure that it's not too wet and not too much product on our eyelid. And then we're going to use setting powder that I use all over the face. We're going to just use that on her eyelids, so when she over her eyes, they don't crease or look muddy or anything. So this is me right here using my Revolution banana powder all over her lid. I then take my Kiss mascara and I just coat her lashes so they don't have no concealer on them, because you don't want to put your lashes on and you got concealer on your lashes. That ain't really cute, girl. You can't do that. And then I put her lashes on off camera. So then I just wipe off all that excess mascara, because she was looking down and she was closing her eyes. So I just wipe all of that, and I also lined her her waterline with black eyeliner. I always do that for my natural faces. That's up to you if you want it or not. I then take my moisturizer. I forgot what it's called, but it's going to be in the description box. And that's me doing my little TikTok. But back to her skin. I am just working around that moisturizer all over her face. I usually just keep it from the eyes down. Just working that around, making sure all of her areas of her skin is moisturized. I do not moisturize the forehead. I just leave that alone. I then use my e.l.f. primer and I just work that into the skin as well. I only use one pump of that and it still just gives a generous amount to work around the whole face. And one other thing that I do is I set the primer by using that same setting powder I use on her eyelids, that Revolution banana powder. I use that all over her face. You don't have to like bake it on there, but I just dip my brush and just start packing that right onto her skin. This is like, I don't know, it's just like my little, I'm just setting and making sure it's right, but I feel like this is really what be making my makeup last all day. My girls be still having their makeup on from the day before appointment. Don't do that though. Yeah, I don't recommend that. But I am using my Nars Foundation in the shade Macao all over her face. And you see I am using that same brush that I was using to carve out her brows. And I'm just going to work that foundation all over her face, on her neck. Because we just need to make sure that everything is covered. And period. That's on that. Okay, girl. Yeah. Commencing phase. Like 11. So I then take my Nars foundation in the shade Tahoe and I am just working it in the middle of her face. I didn't use too much, but I just wanted to lighten her up just a taint. And I do that just to make sure everything is just worked around even and just evenly. And then you see me sprayed her. I sprayed her down before I got to working that product in. And you see I'm taking my Real Techniques brush and I am just putting it on her skin. Making sure you get on that neck because, baby, we do not want to look like we got a mask on because it is January and October was I don't know how long ago. So we are working that makeup all into her skin. Making sure that it is seamless. We're not missing no spots. And make sure you are patting. Pat, pat, pat. Bounce it all around the face. Because what you don't want to do is swipe. When you swipe, you're actually going to take some of that product away. But as you see, I got my napkin with me. So while I'm patting, I am just taking all that excess off. Because you don't want a cakey face. You don't want a cakey face, baby. You don't want to feel like your face is heavy. So, that's why sometimes I work in swipes. I mean, when I'm applying the foundation, sometimes I work in dots. That's another way that you don't have to just keep pouring and caking your face up with foundation. And then I also use my beauty blender, my Real Techniques sponge. And I use that to soak up all the excess foundation as well. But make sure you work that foundation all into the skin, into the neck, until you are satisfied with your coverage. Alright, so let's get into this concealer. I'm going to take my Tarte Shape Tape concealer in the shade Tan Sand, and I am just applying that under her eyes. And then I put that on the outer corner of her eye right there as you see me placing it. I'm going to put it a little bit on the center of her forehead, a line on her nose, and the upper part of her lip. Now, I'm a work in progress myself. I get a little excited when I do concealing, I ain't gonna lie. So sometimes you don't need that much concealer. It's all on what works for you and what your preference is. But I do get a little excited because contouring, bronzing, and concealing is my favorite part. But then I take my e.l.f. concealer just to make it a tinge darker, okay? Just a little bit darker. And I put that just a little towards the center. And then I spray her down with my Morphe setting spray again before I started blending. I start blending by using my Real Technique setting brush. And I'm just patting. Remember, we always are patting. We will never swipe. Ever. 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 Please don't. You're just, all you're doing is patting and working that product into the skin. And I always have my napkin in my hand to just take off that excess concealer that you don't need. Oh, and another little reason on why I use the napkin is because you don't want to put a wet brush right back onto the skin. If that kind of makes sense, because sometimes it leaves a mark. If it's a little too wet and it leaves a mark. So I just rub off all the excess and then just let it be the brush working in that product. I hope that makes sense, but that's the most simplest way I could put it. But now we are contouring. I'm using my black Opal foundation stick in the shade Nutmeg, I believe, or it is Hazelnuts. I'm going to place it in the description box, and I am just placing that all over. Well, I'm having her smile so I can know the exact placement as to where I can put it. You can have your client do that as well. It really helps. Or if you're doing it on your face, if you just smile to see where your lines are. I kind of duped that out for the fish face. But I just put that, just a couple dashes on her forehead and on the sides. I then use another setting brush and I just work that contour in. And then I go back and forth with my foundation brush just to make sure that the blend is nice. And you just keep working in that product. Just you're blending when it comes down to contouring. You just kind of want it to look you don't want it to look money, but you need it to do what it needs to do. So that's all I'm doing is working that product in and going back and forth with each brush. And having the client smile, it just helps me work that product in even more. And so this is how she looks right now. I then take that same Off shade concealer and just to brighten it up just a little bit so you don't want it to look too money. And then I put that same tan sand underneath. This is optional if you feel like your contour went a little too high, but I do that just to make sure that everything is blended in. But I use a clean setting brush to do this. This is a rare occasion that I will have to do this, but I do have to do it every once in a while. But that is just what I do to work in the concealer and the contour together. I then take my Laura Mercier powder in the shade Honey, and I'm just working that into the places I concealed on her face and on her forehead and on her upper lip. And you're making sure you're pressing that powder in. I do not set. I just press the powder in just to make sure that it is no longer wet under her eye. And just making sure that everything is blended in and set nicely. Then you can use any mascara to just place that on your bottom lashes just to make your look pop. I then take my black Radiance contour palette in the shade medium to dark, and I take that contour shade and I use my Morphe contour brush, and I am applying that to the areas that we contoured. I will also recommend to use a lighter hand because it's always easier to add on rather than take away. So if you already place a whole bunch of powder right there, it might be a little bit harder to take away. So sometimes when I find myself being a little heavy-handed, I use my e.l.f. blending brush and I just tap it away, as you see I'm doing right here, just to soften it up a bit. Obviously, sis is starting to feel herself. But now I am taking my MAC Mineralized Skin Finish and I am just applying that to the areas that we concealed. And I am placing that under the eyes and on the forehead, on the lips, just up above the lips, excuse me. Just working that into the skin because I love the finish that it gives. So that is also optional, but that is definitely something that I would recommend that you have in your kit. And now I am just contouring her nose with that same foundation stick that we use to contour her base. And I'm going to use a Real Techniques sponge to work that in. And to carve out my contour, I'm using my Real Techniques setting brush and just dipping that into my Laura Mercier setting powder. I try to be reasonable when it comes down to the products I use and try to still be affordable when doing these tutorials. Just so they are easier to buy because makeup is expensive. So I am a college student at heart, even though I graduated last May. Shout out to CAU. So I still want to look out for y'all. So um, a good dupe out for Laura Mercier. I haven't found it yet, but I know there definitely is some out there. But Laura Mercier is definitely worth the money for a setting powder. I then take my Juvia's Place contour palette and I am going to carve out her nose with that lighter shade. I believe this is the light to medium palette, or is this the medium to dark? I'm not sure, but it will be in the description box below. I am also taking my blush from Juvia's Place, and right where the concealer and contour meet, I am just applying blush. I want to be a part of the blush squad because it be looking so beautiful on people's skin, and I'm not usually a blush person, but I'm trying to get into it. I just put it on lightly, but put as much blush as you would like. I then use my Fenty. Oh yeah, that is a nice shiny coin too, but that highlighter is worth it too. I use that Fenty diamond highlighter, and then I use my black Radiance in a contour shade, the light to dark, but I use the palette light to dark, but I use the highlighter in that palette, and I put it on the highest points of her face. So where you smile, those are your cheeks, your nose, and just a tad bit on your forehead. I take my Neutrogena makeup wipe just to wipe off her lips so I can line her lips with the Morphe lip liner in the shade Trendsetter. And I am not overlining her lips. I am just only going by the natural shape of her lips. I then take the NYX lip gloss in the shade Fortune Cookie, and I'm just applying that all over her lips. I'm going to have her, instead of rub her lips together, like pop her lips together so she won't, rub that brown into the pinkish nude. Then I use a gloss just to top it and move that lip gloss around. But this is a natural full face, so any lip color that you will like, you can pair with this look. So this is the final look. I was using my front camera, so the lighting was a little off, but this was using my back camera. And this is the final look. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see y'all in my next video. Be safe, take care. I love y'all, and God bless.